I was scrolling through a thread of anglers who'd just gotten back from a weekend on the Gulf, and the common thread was the same regret. They'd bought a cheap bow mount motor to save a few bucks, only to end up fighting a weak thrust in a battery that died before they even reached the fishing spot. The disappointment showed up in the way they described wasting the whole day because the motor wouldn't hold me in one spot. That's why I wanted to see if the Minn Kota Riptide PowerDrive could actually be the smarter buy instead of another budget disappointment. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The first thing I thought about was the hesitation most people feel when they're about to drop a few $100s on a trolling motor. You're looking at a piece of equipment that's going to sit on your bow for weeks, maybe months, and if it doesn't live up to the promises, you've essentially sunk money into a dead weight. For me, the key questions were, will it actually keep a boat steady in a windy, choppy inlet? Will the battery last long enough for a full day of trolling without me having to run back to the dock to charge? And, perhaps most importantly, does the technology justify the price tag, or am I just paying for a name? Let's start with the practical side of setting this thing up. The Riptide comes with a deploy assist lever that lets you push the motor straight into the water while the boat is still on the lift. On a small fishing boat that's already loaded with gear, the lever feels surprisingly solid, and it saves the awkward dip and lift dance you get with older models. The shaft is 54 inches, which is long enough to clear most holes without hitting the propeller, but it does add a bit of length to your bow. If you're on a compact kayak or a very short-run boat, you'll notice the extra overhang, and that's something to keep in mind. One of the biggest selling points here is the built-in GPS trolling system with spot lock. In real-world terms, this means you can drop a marker on a promising structure, a submerged reef, a school of baitfish, or a calm pocket in a tidal current, and the motor will keep the boat exactly on that spot, adjusting speed and steering automatically. I imagined a scenario where I'm on a saltwater inlet, the wind is picking up, and I need to stay right over a crab pot. With spot lock engaged, the Riptide does the fine-tuning for you, letting you focus on bait and hook set rather than constantly fighting the helm. It's not a miracle. Strong gusts will still push the boat a little, but the correction is subtle enough that you hardly notice the motor fighting the elements. Battery life is another place where the Riptide tries to differentiate itself. The digital maximizer technology claims up to 5 times longer runtime on a single charge. In practice, that translates to roughly 12 to 15 hours of low-thrust cruising on a standard 48-volt marine battery, and about 4 to 5 hours at the full 70-pound thrust setting. If you're planning a full day of trolling over multiple spots, the motor's ability to dial back to a low-power cruise mode while you're moving between locations can stretch the charge well beyond what a conventional motor would give you. For someone who wants to fish an entire day without worrying about a midday battery swap, that efficiency is a real advantage. The micro remote is a small Bluetooth-enabled controller with a non-slip grip that fits nicely in a palm. You can mount it on the steering wheel or keep it in your hand, and it gives you instant access to speed, direction, and the spot lock toggle. In a real fishing scenario, you're often juggling a rod, a phone, maybe a cooler, and having a compact remote means you don't have to reach back to the bow every time you want to adjust speed. The remote also pairs with the Minn Kota app, letting you set waypoints and view battery status. The learning curve is minimal, the buttons are clearly labeled, and the Bluetooth connection is quick, usually within a few seconds of turning the motor on. Now, who should actually consider spending on the Riptide? If you're a serious saltwater angler who frequently fishes in windy conditions, needs precise positioning for bottom fishing, or runs a boat that's big enough to benefit from a 70-pound thrust rating, this motor lines up nicely with those needs. The corrosion-protected lower unit grip blasted and coated in aluminum means you can leave it in a saltwater environment for extended periods without the rust that plagues cheaper motors. The GPS integration also makes sense for those who fish structure or need to maintain a static spot while waiting for a bite. Conversely, if you're a casual weekend paddler, you have a small 10-foot utility boat, or you only need a motor for short trips around a calm lake, the Riptide might be overkill. The 70-pound thrust is more than you'll ever need in a lightweight craft.